Hello, dear friends. I've read many galactic stories over the years, but this one from Eldora and Simon, dated this Friday, is one of the best summaries I've found. Opinion piece. The most ancient battle. How the struggle between humans and reptiles began. Ancient is the battle between light and dark. The truth is a whisper and the lie is a scream. Every man reaps what he sows and calls it destiny. Bank of England warns of financial collapse. Gold price rises on global inflation fears. Twitter chief predicts hyperinflation coming soon. Russia increases gas supplies to Italy by almost 16% this year. Chaos grips thousands of Afghans desperate to cross into Pakistan. Let's start. The human species began in the later star system approximately 40 million years ago. We were a peace-loving civilization and we thrived primarily in agriculture and artistic pursuits. Life was peaceful, harmonious and beautiful. We lived in balance with nature, and there was abundance to share among the people. One day, the Alpha Draconic race came to visit the later star system and was quite impressed with its abundance of food and the natural resources. The Alpha Draconians were an advanced warrior race with military-grade heavy spacecraft. They demonstrated their dominance over the Lyrans, who were basically defenseless, by attacking first. They destroyed 3 of the 14 planets in the later star system. The planets Vela, Teka, and Merk were destroyed with over 50 million humans killed in an instant. This was the beginning of the millennia-long struggle between humans and reptilians. The Draconians are the oldest race in this universe and arrived here approximately 4 billion years ago. They originate from a parallel dimension and no one knows for sure how they crossed over into our realm of existence. They believe that because they were the first in this universe, everything in this universe belongs to them, and that they are the real rulers of this universe. The Draconians have conquered many species and races, destroyed many planets, and even genetically altered many life forms for nefarious purposes. The Orion and Regal star systems are their main base of operation, as that is where these reptilian races are primarily found. They like to dominate weaker civilizations with the use of their advanced technology and weaponry. They are a kind of negative selfish service orientation that chooses fear over love. They do not defend free will of other beings and believe that other races are less fortunate and deserve to be enslaved. Similar to the depiction in the movie 300, the reptilian mother will abandon her offspring to fend for themselves. If they survive, they are raised by the warrior class who abuse the children for play and fun to make them tougher. This causes the children to lose all sense of moral boundaries at an early age and become cold and emotionless towards others. They have the ability to inflict pain without remorse. The current race of reptilians who controlled planet Earth in the previous era are descendants of these Draconians. They have an innate distrust of the human race and believe they own the solar system. They have cleverly subverted the law of free will by manipulating humankind in such a way that we willingly give up our freedom and allow them to control us through shadow governments. they were attempting to take total control over planet Earth, but have now been stopped by the intervention of the Galactic Federation. The Galactic Federation is an interplanetary association that was created to intervene when universal laws were violated. The current drama unfolding on planet Earth is the culmination of an epic battle that has been going on between the forces of light and dark for millennia. Fortunately for us, humankind has freed itself from reptilian control and will reclaim its sovereign right over planet Earth for ages to come. Warmongering, fear, and control are simply the result of a wounded consciousness. Unfortunately, there are some races such as the Draco reptilians who have been disconnected from God's source for so long that there is no shred of light left in their souls. May all beings in this universe realize that when we choose to coexist in peace and harmony, there are more than enough resources that can provide for us all. Universal abundance abounds in this galaxy. I hope this helps shed some light on the type of beings we have been dealing with and why things got so dark on our planet, especially over the last 25,000 years. Crisis news. 10 European banks run short of capital. 10 large European banks may need to raise capital as a result of the implementation of new global rules, and their shortfall could be $31.43 billion, according to the European Union's draft regulation. Bank of England warns of the financial collapse. The Bank of England warned investors this week that Bitcoin could cause collapse of the financial system, while a recent Reuters report called the UK the banking scam capital of the world. Twitter chief predicts hyperinflation will happen soon in the world and change everything. Twitter CEO and co-founder Jack Dorsey on Saturday issued a warning that hyperinflation will happen soon and change the situation in the world. In September, inflation rose 5.4% in the US compared to a year earlier, due to a growth in consumer prices, AP reported in mid-October, stressing that this is the biggest increase since 2008. Gold price rises on global inflation fears. The price of gold rose above $1,800 an ounce this week, trade data show. While global investors assess the risks of high inflation, some experts say a doubling of the gold price could soon follow. Silver also rises. Silver gains at the risk of a Fed rate hike widens. Rate hikes are more likely to be on the table as inflation is outpacking the Fed's expectations. John O. Sabin said on Thursday, October 21st, in quotes, "A specific, obscure and precise event would occur shortly, triggering other events, proving to all that we were on the winning side. The war would last until March 2022, and then for a couple of years." According to John O. Sabin, we are about to experience the beginning of a change. It's like the tide is changing direction. There is a specific event, and when that happens very soon, here and now, nothing will be real for many people until that event occurs. But that event is so raw and so precise, then people will understand that you can't get the other side. That would be the first domino. but this is going to take months. Dollar crisis. The dollar struggles for supremacy. On Friday, the greenbacks stemmed some of its losses after the Fed chairman Jerome Powell said the central bank should refrain from raising rates for now, but should start reducing its asset purchases. Toward the digital dollar. The Fed will take a central bank digital currency soon that will be internationally sanctioned, different from Bitcoin and private cryptocurrencies, says G. Edward Griffin, author of The Creature from Jekyll Island, and the founder of Red Pill University. The Fed has become so powerful that its originally envisioned roles have been completely reversed, Griffin says. Markets. Russia increases gas supplies to Italy by almost 16% this year. Russia's state-owned energy giant Gazprom increased natural gas exports to Italy by 15.9% between January and October 2021, compared to the same period last year. New market highs. Investors are focusing on a flurry of earnings reports from Wall Street's tech and internet giants, as high-growth stocks have led markets higher for years, face regulatory pressures, supply chain hurdles, and rising treasury yields. Las Vegas Picasso works fetch more than $100 million. 11 Picasso paintings and other works that helped make Las Vegas an unlikely destination for art sold an auction Saturday for more than $100 million. Spain. Part of La Palma volcano collapses after earthquake. A 4.9 magnitude earthquake shook the island of La Palma, the largest recorded since the Cumbre Vieja volcano erupted. Part of the main cone of the volcano collapsed. The España vaciada, empty Spain, yearns for a train to link up regions. The empty Spain joins the claims that are being made this week in favor of the train and demands the recovery of the conventional railway services that used to link up towns and regions, just as the AVE connects distant cities. Coria del Rio, Andalusian cradle of samurai. Coria del Rio is a small town that wants to revive its economy after the crisis with an exotic historical legacy, its relationship with Japan. Hundreds of neighbors are surnamed Japan, related to the first Japanese expeditions on European soil. Today, the town maintains Japanese traditions and even brews its own sake. The National Court suspends the delivery of El Pollo Carvajal to the US. The National Court of Spain has decided to suspend the delivery of the US of the former Venezuelan intelligence chief Hugo El Pollo Carvajal, which was scheduled for this Saturday. Martín Villa appeals against the indictment of an Argentinian judge. The former Spanish minister Rodolfo Martín Villa appealed before the Argentinian Federal Court of Appeals against the indictment of Judge Maria Servini for the death of several people between 1976 and 1978. Chilean and Spanish elite soldiers exercise in emergency missions. 12 members of an operational team of the Special Forces of the Chilean Army are participating in the maneuvers with their Spanish counterparts and US Marines to exchange techniques in emergency missions and civil protection. Americas. Mexico investigates allegations of forced labor and tomato export companies. The Mexican government said Friday it set up a task force to investigate allegations of forced labor at two tomato export companies after U.S. Customs and Border Protection said it would ban imports from those firms. Poverty drives child labor. In Ecuador, the economic crisis comes along with the growth in poverty, and with it a visible increase in the number of minors forced to work. Human rights and world order, a narrative in crisis. The construction of a new world order cannot be separated from the narrative of human rights, whether to legitimize or transform them, commented Salvadoran writer and political scientist Naida Acevedo. Otoniel, Colombia's most wanted drug trafficker, captured. Dairo Antonio Usuga David, alias Otoniel, considered Colombia's most wanted drug trafficker, was captured according to Colombian authorities. There are more than 120 prosecutions for crimes of varying gravity open against the drug lord. Christian leaders called for the lifting of the embargo on Cuba. Several leaders of the Ecumenical World Council of Churches sent a letter to President Biden urging him to take the bold decision to lift the financial and commercial embargo on Cuba, according to the island's state media on Friday. Blockade in Brazil. Brazilian truckers' protests provoke fuel shortage with refinery blockade. Two important refineries have been blockaded by truckers in Minas Gerais, Brazil, after they demanded a reduction in the tax of diesel. A study shows how dinosaurs lived together, and an international group of researchers obtained the earliest evidence in history to show that dinosaurs lived together in society even 192 million years ago, and claim that this influenced their evolutionary success. The findings were made in El Tranquilo, Santa Cruz province, in southern Argentina. Container fire in Canada. A fire broke out in containers on a cargo ship carrying mining chemicals off British Columbia on Saturday, and the Canadian Coast Guard said it is working with its US counterpart to assess the situation and environmental hazards. Middle East. Humanitarian crisis in Afghanistan. Afghanistan's economic problems could fuel a refugee crisis that would affect neighboring countries, Turkey and Europe, according to the IMF. With foreign assets frozen, the aid-dependent country faces cash shortages, falling imports, currency depreciation, and accelerating inflation. The economy will contract by up to 30% this year, which could push millions of people into poverty and cause a humanitarian crisis. Neighboring Tajikistan has said it cannot take in more refugees. Chaos grips thousands of Afghans desperate to cross into Pakistan. Chaos grips thousands of Afghans desperately flocking to the Turkmen border crossing in eastern Afghanistan to enter Pakistan after it reopened last Thursday, after remaining closed since the Taliban takeover more than 2 months ago. Turkey to expel US envoy and 9 others. Turkish President Tayyip Erdogan said Saturday he had told his foreign ministry to expel the ambassadors of the US and 9 other Western countries for demanding the release of philanthropist Osman Kavala. Gunmen attack Nigerian prison, free hundreds of detainees. More than 800 detainees have been released in Nigeria after heavily armed assailants stormed a prison in the west of the country. authorities managed to recapture 262 fugitives, while 575 others remained at large. China. NATO to focus on countering Chinese threat. NATO will concentrate on countering the Chinese Communist threat as part of a new strategic focus for the next decade, according to its Secretary General. This comes at a time when the Chinese regime has become more determined in his ambitions for world domination, having gained the upper hand in key warfare technologies such as long-range and hypersonic missiles. Russia and Chinese warships conduct first joint patrols in the Pacific. Russian and Chinese warships conducted their first joint patrols in the Western Pacific Ocean over the past week, a move Japan is watching. Evergrande avoids default, resumes work on 10 projects. Chinese property developer Evergrande avoided default this week with a last-minute bond coupon payment, giving the company another week to deal with its $300 billion debt crisis. China Evergrande Group said Sunday it had resumed work on more than 10 projects in Shenzhen, Dongguan, and other cities. Strong quake rocks Taiwan. Buildings shook in Taipei on Sunday as a 6.5 magnitude earthquake struck northeastern Taiwan, but there were no reports of damage. And that's all for today. Thanks a lot, dear friends.